It's now my pleasure to introduce the Honourable François-Philippe Champagne. Minister Champagne has played a key role in advancing Canada's economic and industrial priorities, and he has been a strong partner for communities here in Manitoba. Son travail a permis de soutenir d'importants investissements ici même à Winnipeg, notamment au Musée royal de l'aviation, et de renforcer les secteurs d'activité qui génèrent des emplois de qualité dans tout le Manitoba. He's also a valued colleague and a good friend to many of us. Minister Champagne.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure. Good morning, everyone. How do we feel today? Good? I was saying to the commander, he's made for this speech. Commander, you're good. I may bring you along with me. You don't know where we're going next, but, you know, you're made for that. I was just... a few folks told me this morning I missed summer over the weekend, but I trust that summer will be back. You know, I can see that. And on my way in, I was asking the commander. I said, "Commander, are you a Habs fan?" He said, "Sir, everyone is a Habs fan today." So I love that. Big round of applause to our guys who did us proud as a nation on the ice yesterday. And I love that, Commander. You were very quick at saying, everyone is a Habs fan today, sir. You know, I love that. Good spirit, good military spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be here in Winnipeg. I want to say thank you to my colleagues. I make a point everywhere I go in our nation to go visit our troops to say thank you on behalf of all Canadians. I had the privilege of seeing many of you, whether it's in bases in Europe, whether in Latvia, whether I was visiting on mission in the Sinai Desert. I mean, I've seen CAF members. You make us proud everywhere. Those who serve the new generation, I like to see the young people being enlisted and really serving our nation. So for me, Commander, you don't know how proud I am to be with you this morning. You know, to feel the leadership, the excellence, the commitment of all the men and women that I see and want to serve our nation at a time where we need it most. And I say thank you to you, sir, for opening the base. Thank you to the Chief Warrant Officer, l'Adjudant-Chef Saint-Onge. What a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, and really showing the best of the best. And we'll have a chance to meet some of you later on today, to see some of the equipment and really to see what you need and how we can be, as civilian leaders, how to support you in everything you do. You're on the front line. Our job is to make sure you get what you need when you need it, and that we can serve our nation and defend our country at a time where we need that. This is a base with great history. I was reading about it. You know, you can imagine I came from a bit far yesterday, so I had time to read, but a century of excellence. It's quite amazing what you've done in the base. 100 years, 1925, I think, when the base was created. The role you played in the Second World War. I remind that to our Southern friends oftentimes, how much you have been shoulder to shoulder with them, what we've done during the Second World War. And this was the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan during the Second World War. So your people who served before you have made this place a place of excellence, a place that is enshrined in history, and a place that it is our duty and your duty to make sure that we build the next century together. So I'm very proud, and the base is really... all of Winnipeg, I would say, is inspired by the base. Whether it's the Blue Bombers or the Jets of Winnipeg, this town is breeding generations of airmen and women and soldiers who have built this great place. Believe it or not, I'm not started yet, Colonel, so this was just like emotions. You know, they always say, speak with your heart first and then read the notes. It's a great speech. I'm happy to email it to you all. But I wanted to first share my passion for what you do and my support to each and every one of you. So it's a real privilege to be at 17 WIG here in Winnipeg. I think it's my first visit. I visited your colleagues in most bases across the country, but I think it's my very first time, and I'm very proud to see what you do and how you serve. This is at the very heart of our country. You see that Canada's security isn't just about borders. But it's about people. It's about each and every one of you wake up in the morning and decide to stand up to defend our value, defend our dignity, defend our country. And that's why I'm proud to be with you. And like I said, it's quite astonishing to see the history of that base and with the commander and the chief warrant officer. We're talking about what else we're going to do together. And I think the journey is exciting for each and every one of you. To the members of the Canadian Armed Forces here today, you're the backbone of our sovereignty. You are the reason our allies trust us and adversaries respect us. To your families, particularly those who are watching at home today, I just want to say thank you because we know that the families bear the weight of your service alongside you. And I want to say thank you. No one is serving here without their family, with their support of their partners, their children, their extended family. And we know the sacrifice that these families are making for you to be able to serve our nation. To your leaders, to Lieutenant Colonel Coleman, thank you for your leadership, sir. And l'adjudant-chef Saint-Onge, merci pour votre leadership. You inspire excellence. You inspire service and dedication. I read about you both. And, you know, if you have a great base, because you have great leaders as well. So I want to say thank you and applaud you on behalf of everyone for your service and the leadership you provide. I can tell you when I was in the Army Cadet, I still remember the people who commanded us when I was at Citadel or in Valcartier. And I remember how forming it can be when you have leaders who inspire you to serve and to do good. So thank you, gentlemen, for what you're doing. And to each and every one of you, 4,500, thereabout, men and women who serve here, I want to say a personal thank you to each and every one of you. I see our search and rescue team. Thank you to put your life on the front line for other Canadians who are in distress. You embody the best of the best. You know, brave, ready to serve. And I'm told, what, 30 minutes of scramble time, you know? So this is good. This is good, and it's inspiring. Last week, some of you may have seen I delivered on your behalf and on behalf of all Canadians our spring economic update, which we call Canada Strong for All, to make sure that Canadians understand that we're in this together. This is at a time of unprecedented change. The speed, scope, and scale of change is unprecedented. It's not only geopolitics, not only geoeconomics, not only supply chain, but it's the speed of technology, AI, quantum, cyber. I was just chatting with the commander how much you see that. When I was in Washington with our colleagues down south as well, the interaction of quantum, cyber, and AI, and what we're going to be needing in order to defend and protect our nation and our allies in the NATO family. And I think you have seen that the world is more divided and challenging in many ways, and we need to be together to defend, obviously, our sovereignty. In face of these threats, we are facing a number of growing threats, ranging from incursion into the Arctic waters to people who would make incursion into our airspace and targeting our cyberspace. You've seen it all. Some of you have been deployed in many parts of the world to defend that same sovereignty. And that's why we're strengthening our sovereign capabilities in critical sector and deepening our cooperation with trusted partners around the world to safeguard our security, but also our resilience. We understand that our security begins here at home, but extends far beyond our borders. And I read the profile of some of you, not all of you, but a lot of you have served in different parts and different missions, and you understand this. And so that's why we embarked on a historic mission to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces. Our mission began with Budget 2025, where we outlined about $82 billion to rebuild our military, and most importantly, to reinvest in the people who wear the uniform. It's good to have the equipment, but it's even more important to have the people. We're going to use that equipment, we're going to serve and make sure that not only we're going to be good today, but we can be continuing to have the equipment that will allow you to serve in more complex mission in the future. That included a well-deserved pay raise for all CAF members. That's the thing I hear the most when I go in bases. They said, yes, we remember the pay raise, this is good, you deserve it, because we know that recruitment and retention are the foundation of readiness. And that's where you can play a role, whether you have a cousin, whether you have a neighbor, whether you have a friend who want to serve in the armed forces. There's never been a better time to join the forces and be part of the family and the team that's going to build this country. And in fact, Commander, you may have seen that our recruitment numbers are the best in the last 30 years. So people are joining up. People understand this is a good time to serve, and you're going to get the equipment that you need in order to do that. Au cours de la dernière année, nous avons investi plus de 63 milliards de dollars dans la défense et la sécurité du Canada. On parle d'un investissement historique en appui à nos militaires qui produit déjà des résultats. Vous avez vu qu'en mars dernier, l'OTAN a confirmé que le Canada avait atteint son objectif de 2 % de dépenses en défense 5 ans plus tôt que prévu. Mais le travail ne fait que commencer, mesdames et messieurs. Nous allons construire et renforcer nos capacités de défense. Nous allons doter nos forces d'équipements modernes, fabriqués au Canada, et nous allons réinvestir dans nos travailleurs, dans notre industrie. So we met our NATO commitment way ahead of what we had said. And this is giving our colleagues around the world, I think it's snowing. I think it's snowing. Welcome to spring in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we're tough, we're Canadian. Nothing's going to stop us. It's not going to be snow in May, you know. We're going to be going through that together. But I was just saying that our NATO partners are seeing the commitment of Canada in the men and women who serve, but also in the commitment of our government to make sure that we invest our fair share. You may have seen that in February we launched the Defense Industrial Strategy, a whole-of-government approach to transform Canada's defense industry. Because if we want to make sure you have the equipment, we need to start building here. We need to start innovating in this country. We need to make sure that small and medium-sized businesses here in Winnipeg and Manitoba and beyond. I remember your mayor just called that the sky economy. I love it. When I was on TV this morning, I talked about all of you. When I was on radio, I did the same. And I love the sky economy and what Winnipeg and the forces can play in that. This isn't just about a security strategy. It's a job strategy, but it's also an industrial strategy. We want to build the things here. We want to maintain. We want to overhaul the equipment. We want to have all these capabilities in Canada. Gone are the days where we're just buying. We want to make sure we build the things together. And I'm encouraged by what I see in the news about, some of the equipment that is going to be perhaps the standard in NATO now that will be made in Canada. But the defense sector in Canada is already pretty big. You may know 600 firms, 61,000 jobs. And if you look at what we're planning to do, we're thinking much bigger. By prioritizing Canadian suppliers and material, we are positioning our industry to take advantage of about $180 billion in procurement opportunities over the next decade. So just think about these numbers. This is historic in Canada's context. Never since the Second World War we have invested that much in making sure that we would have the equipment and would have the technology in order to face the challenge of tomorrow. This will enable Canada's aerospace, our cyber industry, and other industry to scale up operation, to sell more in the home, but also to create high-paying careers and to serve our NATO partners and making sure we can do our fair share. At the heart of this strategy is the Defense Investment Agency. That should be something you all look for, because that's going to be the agency that delivers for you. Making sure that you have seen that for too long, we have been too slow and probably inefficient when it comes to procurement. I've been on bases, I've been in the field. I wear the same boots that some of you wear, some of the same equipment. I was just at the base recently. They said, just try it, sir. Feel it. You understand it. So now we're taking steps to make sure you will have the right equipment. They will have one mission, is to make sure that you get the equipment you need at the speed that your mission demands. I was just talking to the commander, the nature of conflict has changed quite significantly. I think about our friends in Ukraine and what they have taught us on the battlefield and what you need in order to succeed. It's quite different than what you needed at the time. Although Canada has a long history. In the Second World War, we play more than our fair share. But if you look at the nature of conflict today, nature of war, it's very different. You need to innovate. You need to be very quick to market. You need to be quick on the battlefield in order to make sure that these innovations, when you combine AI with the equipment and quantum, you really need to be at the forefront of that. And I trust that Canadians will be there for that. This is going to be a very significant step, and I hope you're going to join me. In my role as Minister of Finance, yes, I can commit the funds, but we need your thoughts. We need your input. We need you to be with us in that journey. Tell us what we need, what needs to be fixed. Tell us how we can do faster. Tell us how we can do better. And I'm sure to your chain of command, there'll be opportunities for you to say that, but otherwise just stop me in the street. Stop me wherever you see and tell me what you see, how you feel it, and how we can do better together. To make this a reality, we will also enable legislation and make amendments to provide the Defense Investment Agency the tools and authority to serve you at the speed that we need today. And I think this is good. We should all be, as Canadians, saying we're learning best practices. We consult with our allies. I talked to the our British ally recently, saying how we can do, how we can learn, the Australian, others, to see how they do and what we can learn from them. And I trust that with you, we'll be best in class. We're Canadians after all. So we should aim to be the best, and we're certainly going to do our part, and with your help, I'm sure we can do that. I want to talk about something you may have heard, Team Canada Strong. If we want to build this country, if we want to make sure you have the equipment, we need to enlist and inspire a generation of young Canadians. Team Canada Strong is about making sure we retain, train, and attract about 80,000 to 100,000 Red Seals in the trade so that we can build the stuff that we need. I can think of the hangars. I think we may need expansion, Commander, you told me. I think about housing. I think about the kind of things you're going to need. But in order to do that, we need men and women in uniform. But we also need the Red Seals to build the stuff. You know, the neighbors, the colleagues, you know, that want to get into the trade. On veut finalement offrir aux jeunes une nouvelle opportunité de carrière pour leur permettre de bâtir le pays qu'on veut faire ensemble. Et on parle de la création d'opportunités dans les métiers spécialisés, dans l'industrie de la construction, entre autres, pour bâtir sur nos bases, pour bâtir le logement, pour bâtir les installations dont on va avoir besoin pour les années à venir. I think the skilled workforce are very complementary to the spirit in the military. It's about discipline. It's about making sure that we attract the best and brightest to help us build. And we're going to be doing that in an historic way. In fact, you may have seen that we're going to be investing to $250 million to expand the skilled trades training to the Canadian Armed Forces. We're creating a new end-to-end pipeline for people who want to start in the Army Cadet and the Junior Canadian Rangers. I was saying to the commander, when I was a young Army Cadet, way back, I said, if there was a path like that, maybe I could have been on the base with you today. But when I was there in Valcartier and in La Citadelle, there was not much of that yet. We were not necessarily having a path for young cadets to join and to see themselves in the skilled trades, but I think we're changing that now. And imagine what you can inspire if you meet a junior ranger in a remote community or a cadet right here in Winnipeg to get their first aerospace engineering training or heavy-duty machines mechanic through the armed forces. So this is really complementary to what you're doing, and I would ask you again to make sure that when you see a young person in the street, that you can hopefully inspire them. I was sharing that one of those who inspired me was Jeremy Ensign, which I was with. Jeremy has shown us the sky is no longer the limit for us. I was with him when he trained. I went to visit him in Houston on your behalf, and he showed the world that with courage and ambition, there's nothing that can stop us as Canadians. But I think you can understand we're gonna be building on the already, I would say, organization that exists, from helmets to hard hats, and making sure that we have the next generation of skilled trades in order to build our country, and this was a big part of that. I want to spend a moment about Ukraine. Can't be here, can talk about defense without talking about the brothers and sisters who are fighting for democracy and are fighting for dignity. I meet them, or their finance minister, quite regularly, and I think they understand we stand shoulder to shoulder with them. They're going through extraordinary times. It's quite phenomenal what they have taught each and every one of us about resilience, about service, about fighting for what you believe. And obviously, we always salute their courage. Extraordinary what they've done in the most difficult of circumstances over 4 years. You may have seen that with the Prime Minister, we decided to renew Operation Unifier. And you've trained, I was about to read, the armed forces have trained, you've trained 47,000 Ukrainian members of their forces. That's Canada's contribution. Contribution, I can tell you, when you meet them, and I have the opportunity on your behalf to meet them quite often, they're always very grateful about the role of Canadians. And obviously, we're going to continue to support them. And Prime Minister just announced, I think it was in Armenia when he announced that this morning, additional funding to support our friends in UK. In conclusion, I know it's getting colder, but I got carried with seeing all of you and the moment we are in history, and trying not only to talk to you, but some of the folks at home so they understand what you're doing and where we're going together. I want to conclude by looking at the full circle of service. We invest in the future, but we must also honor the past. You may have seen that we're going to be working with the Last Post Fund to ensure that the national field of honor in Pointe-Claire remains a place of dignity. Because yes, we need to look at the future, but we need to look at those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, those who serve, and we think about them, obviously. We want to protect the legacy of those who came before you, just as we invest in the tools of the future. The spring update was our way of saying to you, thank you, that we're going to be there with you. We're going to be shoulder to shoulder with you. Because it's far more than balance sheets and numbers and graphs and statistics. It's about making sure that when you go to work, each and every one of you, you have the best tools, the best trainings, and the full backing of your chain of command. Think about the commanders which are here and those who are watching. It's important that you know, the whole chain of command. And, we are there to support you every single day. To protect Canada, to defend our sovereignty, and to work with our allies. So I would say, let's seize the moment, let's be ambitious, and let's build Canada strong together. Vive le Canada. Thank you for your service, everyone. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Ministre Champagne. Merci aussi surtout pour votre leadership. Je dois vous dire que je suis une nouvelle politicienne. I'm new to politics. I was recently elected just over a year ago, and I'm very proud to serve in this government and to be working alongside Minister Champagne and all of my colleagues here today. But I need to tell you, one of the things that has struck me the most in joining government is the degree to which the members of Parliament who are elected and there to represent you are conscientious, are dedicated, and are really there with the best intentions and working hard every day to make these announcements and these funds available and realizing those initiatives for all of us. So merci beaucoup, Minister Champagne, for everything that you do. And I'd now like to welcome another MP, my colleague Doug Ailson, who represents Winnipeg West here in Winnipeg, to say a few words. And he too is quite conscientious and I'm sure has many things to share with you about his work and what he appreciates about you.
All right, thanks for that, Jeanette. Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you for Terry for showing up to represent. Good morning. It truly is a pleasure to be here at 17 Wing in my home of Winnipeg West. Acting Wing Commander Lieutenant Jeffrey Coleman, thank you for hosting us. Minister Champagne, colleagues, Terry Duguid, Jenny Levac, again, thank you for coming out today. So to the men and women of our armed forces, thank you so much for your service to Canada. Just to build on what Minister Champagne just said, here in Winnipeg, we see exactly what these investments mean in practice. Security starts at home, and readiness starts right here at 17 Wing. We now live in a more dangerous and uncertain world, and readiness is not optional, it's essential. 17 Wing plays a vital role in Canada's defence. It supports operations, trains personnel, and ensures our armed forces are ready when Canadians need them. As Minister Champagne highlighted, Canada is making historic investments in the armed forces. But what matters just as much is how those investments show up here at home. And that is happening right here. Here in Winnipeg, these investments are strengthening both our economy and our security. Through initiatives like the Regional Defence Initiative, we're helping Canadian companies grow, innovate, and compete. And through efforts like the Defence Industrial Strategy and the new Defence Investment Agency, we're making sure these investments translate into real opportunities for communities like ours. Today, the defence sector contributes nearly $10 billion to our economy and supports more than 81,000 jobs across Canada. And Winnipeg is the centre of that success. Companies like Standard Aero are maintaining critical aircraft while creating skilled jobs in Manitoba. Boeing is investing $36 million in its Winnipeg operations, advancing aerospace research and developing the next generation of workers. This means good jobs here in Winnipeg, stronger families, and a stronger Canada. These investments are delivering real results here at home for the people of Winnipeg. And this is how we build strength, protect Canadians, and prepare for what comes next. And at the heart of it all are the people who serve. A national security that begins with them and with you. And this is why we're delivering the largest pay increase for members of the Canadian Armed Forces in a generation. And recruitment is now at a 30-year high. We're also investing in the next generation of skilled workers, creating pathways into good, well-paying careers in Canada's defence and aerospace sectors. Because it is the people who serve, build, and train who make Canada strong. Because when we invest in defence, we protect Canadians. We create jobs, we strengthen industries, and we build the future. Because a strong Canada starts with strong communities, and that starts right here. So it all comes back to where we started. Security starts at home, and readiness starts right here at 17 Wing. So to the members of the Canadian Armed Forces, to you and your families, thank you. Your service matters, and it makes a difference every single day. Our government will continue to stand with you, because when Canada is ready at home, Canada is stronger everywhere. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, député Elson. Mon collègue, on l'appelle Dr. Doug. He's our wonderful colleague here in Winnipeg West. So that concludes today's announcements. I just want to take a quick moment to thank all of my colleagues that are here today, Minister Champagne, MP Dogood, MP Elson. It's a little bit of gymnastics for us to not go back to Ottawa right away and to stay here, but it's important, and I really do appreciate your support here today, colleagues, and having everyone here. It matters to us that we be here on the ground with you, have this opportunity to exchange with you, to see you, and to thank you personally for everything you do. Merci pour votre service, pour votre sacrifice. Vous vraiment nous aidez à bâtir un Canada fort, à protéger un Canada fort. Alors, merci pour tout. J'aimerais inviter Sarah Finachu, qui va venir modérer le Q&A avec les médias.
Hello everyone, Bonjour tout le monde. We'll now be opening the media portion for this event for registered media. One question, one follow-up. Please state your name and outlet.
Allô, Maggie Wilcox, Radio-Canada. Vous parlez...
Je ne vous vois pas, attendez, je vais juste me mettre de ce côté-là. Je vais me mettre de ce côté-là, je vais vous regarder.
OK, on se voit là. Alors, vous parlez aujourd'hui de doter l'Agence de l'investissement pour la défense de nouveaux outils, de nouvelles autorités. Quels sont ces nouveaux outils et pourquoi est-ce qu'on a besoin d'apporter de tels changements à une agence qui a été créée il y a 7 mois?
Merci, and first of all, let me make amend. I just want to say thank you to Jeanette, thank you to Doug, thank you to Terry. I can say when they speak, Sada will listen. And I know Ben Carr would have liked to be with us, but they're amazing colleagues, and they wanted to make sure I was in Winnipeg with all of you this morning. So let's switch to the question. Écoutez, l'agence de défense va être une agence importante parce que l'une des choses qu'on avait vues, c'est comment on pouvait, par exemple, réformer les processus d'approvisionnement. Parce qu'il y a eu, pendant des années, vous savez, on est en train de faire des investissements historiques et on a besoin de s'assurer que ces investissements-là vont être faits d'abord dans les bons systèmes de défense, mais deuxièmement, qu'on puisse le faire dans un temps qui correspond à la nouvelle réalité de ce qu'on voit sur le terrain. Quand j'en parlais avec le commandant plus tôt aujourd'hui, vous savez, la nature des conflits a évolué et on a besoin de s'assurer aujourd'hui qu'on va avoir une agence qui va permettre de repenser, moi j'allais dire un peu de moderniser ce qu'on va faire dans le domaine de l'approvisionnement en matière de défense. Et c'est vraiment de donner un coup de pouce aux hommes et aux femmes qui servent en uniforme pour s'assurer qu'on soit à leur service, qu'on ait une agence dédiée avec des professionnels qui comprennent que l'approvisionnement militaire est souvent différent de l'approvisionnement en matière civile. Donc, c'est vraiment de leur donner des outils additionnels avec un financement nécessaire pour leur permettre d'exécuter plus rapidement pour donner aux forces canadiennes les équipements dont ils ont besoin.
And now a question in English for my CBC colleagues. The new financial package announced today for the steel, aluminum, and copper sectors are not repayable for 3 years. Is this an admission that the tariff war is likely to last at least the duration of the Trump administration?
Well, I think it's more a reflection of what we need to do to support Canadian industry. We live in very unprecedented times. I was mentioning it. Actually, if you look at the uncertainty index, which is published by the International Monetary Fund, you would see that the index is probably higher today than it was since probably the Second World War. And so we live in a very uncertain world, and a number of sectors have been hit, particularly with unjust tariff. It's true, if you look at the Canadian economy as a whole, you could say, you know, on a macroeconomic level, we're doing well. We're growing twice as much as Germany. We're going faster than the UK. We're going faster than Italy. We're growing 3 times more than our partners in Italy. But at the same time, if you're in steel, if you're in aluminum, if you're in the car industry or the softwood industry, it feels very different. If you're in Hamilton, if you're in Oshawa, if you're au Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean chez nous, if you're in British Columbia, in parts of the province, it feels very differently. So what we said is that we're going to make sure, we already had the Strategic Response Fund where we put $5 billion to support our industry to pivot. But at the same time, we understand that the way that the calculation of the tariffs are made now with respect to steel and aluminum, we need it to be there for these sectors and making sure that we can help these companies to transition either to new market, to new technologies. We've seen that with Algoma Steel, for example. But they needed an additional boost. And that's really in the essence of being Canadians. We know that when we have a sector, which is it in particular, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with the men and women who go to work every day. And I would say a lot of these industries are key to our economic security. And we've been very clear from the get-go that whatever comes at us, we're going to prepare to stand up and defend our industry, defend our workers, and obviously defend our sovereignty. And so that's why the announcement this morning was very timely. It's not a reflection of how things could go. I don't have a crystal ball, but one thing I know is that we're going to make sure that our Canadian industry will be able to go through that period of heightened uncertainty. You know, when I was in Washington, some of our colleagues called that the fog of uncertainty is wrapping the world. Well, I can tell you, if there is a fog, we'll find the light. And Canada will chart its own path. And you see now exports to the United States will always be there, but you see now an increase in export to overseas market. So we're going to be there for workers. Sir?
Hi, Minister. I'm Timur Durrani from the Globe and Mail. Thank you so much for being here in snowy Winnipeg to take our questions today. New Parliamentary Budget Officer Annette Ryan's first report says the government's spring fiscal update lacks clarity on major initiatives, including the ramp up in defense spending, the launch of a $25 billion wealth fund, and the government's plans to find billions in internal savings. What do you have to say about the PBO's new report?
Well, I welcome her comment. You know, the Parliamentary Budget Officer is an independent officer of Parliament. She's there to inform Parliament, to inform Canadians. I would say if I take your different parts of it, if I look at the Canada Sovereign Fund that we created in order to allow Canadians to be able to join in building this country, they have a bit of savings, and also to create an instrument. When if you look at the Nordic country has been an instrument that has created collective wealth. We've been very clear. We did the announcement the day before the Spring Economic Update. We provided additional details during the Spring Economic Update, and there'll be additional details coming because we want to consult with experts, with partners around the world to make sure it's best in class, to make sure it's easy, accessible for folks who may want. You know, it's not, if you and I would wanted to invest in a pipeline or invest in a project of national interest, it's pretty difficult as retail investors to join in. Now you'll have the possibility, and if you look at the international press, They said this is Canada at its best in a way. It is a sovereign wealth fund, but in a very Canadian way, you're allowing citizens to be able to join us in building. This is great. I mean, we're the only in the world which allows citizen people to be able to join in if they so wish and benefit from the growth that we're going to see in the Canadian economy. Like I said, our growth is twice as much as a number of our European partners. With respect to the details, with respect to the savings, I think we've been very clear that as Canadians have been tightening their belt, it was about time that we did the same in Ottawa. And I found $60 billion of savings. So this, we're on track, obviously, to reach the target we have given ourselves. So on the savings sides, we provided details. We fixed the objective. With respect to the sovereign fund, there'll be more details to come. But I'm always happy to listen to what the parliamentary budget officer has to say and certainly address our questions and provide more information to Canadians.
Okay, thanks, Minister. As a follow-up to that, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also yesterday noted that there is growing federal debt, which he notes is on track to reach $1.6 trillion by 2030, 2031. Would you be able to explain to us how, this $1 trillion that's adding up, according to Pierre Poilievre, where he's echoing these concerns about federal debt rising, what is your government doing to combat that? What is your sort of comments on that?
Well, let me help him a bit with the math. One thing you have to look is that if you look at the net debt to GDP, Canada is the lowest in the G7. Actually, we're not just the lowest, but if you compare, the second lowest would be Germany, and their net debt to GDP is 5 times higher than what we have. And Canada and Germany are the only two AAA credit rated country in the G7. So I would say you don't need to take it from me, but you can take it also from the International Monetary Fund, which just said that Canada has the strongest fiscal position of any G7 country. So our trajectory, because it's not only what you do, but it's how you do it. It was clear at the time that they said if you invest in housing, if you invest in infrastructure, if you invest in productivity and innovation, you're going to grow the economy. And actually, what it shows is that the Canadian economy is more resilient than many people had expected because we're intertwined with the U.S. economy. A lot of people were concerned about what would the tariff do to the Canadian economy. And if you look back, actually, you're saying Canadian workers are resilient. Canadian industries are resilient. Canada is a resilient country. And that's what you see in the numbers. So I would say Canada has a strong fiscal position. And the most important thing for people watching at home is that what should give confidence to every Canadian is that by 28, 29, we said when we borrow, this is going to make sure that when we borrow, it's to invest in growth-enhancing asset, to invest in capital. So for people at home, it's like when you pay your bills at the end of the week or the end of the month for your cell phone, this is an expense. When you take a mortgage to buy a house, it's an investment. Well, it's kind of the same thing. We said by 28, 29, when we borrow as the federal government, it's going to be for growth-enhancing assets, a bridge, a port, something that will serve the nation for generations to come. And I think that's what you see from the international financial institution and markets. That's why they have confidence in Canada, because they understand that we're on a track to make these strategic investments that are going to make our country more resilient. Sure.
Répétez ça en français sur la dette nationale.
La dernière réponse? Alors, je disais que je suis prêt à aider M. Poilievre avec les mathématiques, mais ce qu'on a vu récemment, c'est que le Canada a une position fiscale, la position fiscale la plus enviable des pays du G7, la plus solide. Quand vous regardez la dette sur le PIB, le Canada se situe au premier rang, c'est-à-dire qu'on est la plus basse. Notre taux est à 10 %. Quand vous regardez le deuxième pays au monde, c'est l'Allemagne qui est à peu près à 50 %. Donc le Canada a la dette par rapport au PIB la plus basse de tous les pays du G7. Et ce que ça donne, c'est qu'aussi on a dit qu'en 2028-2029, quand on emprunterait des sommes, ça serait pour investir dans des investissements en capital qui font croître l'économie. Donc en 28-29, quand on fait des emprunts, c'est pour bâtir l'économie canadienne. Pour les gens qui nous regardent, quand vous payez à la fin de la semaine, quand vous payez à la fin du mois une facture, par exemple, d'électricité, vous dépensez. Quand vous prenez une hypothèque pour acheter une maison, vous investissez. Donc c'est un peu la même chose. C'est que non seulement on a la meilleure position fiscale du G7, mais on dit qu'en 28-29, quand on va emprunter, ça sera pour faire croître l'économie canadienne. Et force est de constater que l'économie canadienne est plus résiliente qu'on l'avait imaginé, malgré l'interaction avec l'économie américaine. Plusieurs s'étaient inquiétés de voir comment le Canada s'en sortirait. Force est de constater que les travailleurs canadiens sont plus résilients qu'on pensait peut-être. L'industrie canadienne est plus résiliente et le Canada est plus résilient. Donc, ça nous met dans une position fiscale importante et ça nous permet aussi d'aider les Canadiens avec les mesures d'abordabilité parce que les gens sont préoccupés par le coût du logement, l'épicerie, évidemment l'essence. Donc, on a pu en même temps faire croître l'économie, mais aider les Canadiens dans un moment où ils avaient besoin. Sir.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Champagne. Yes, welcome to Winnipeg, and
Thank you.
May the 4th be with you.
Likewise. I'm here all day, by the way.
Okay. I'd like to talk about, I mean, you've got this announcement today, and I'd like to maybe examine the downside, as a lot of people would see it, and that has to do with...
The downside of the announcement this morning.
Yeah, well, also the budget 2025, which
Okay.
is citing the, because I think that the two go together, I think, as you said, this increase this willingness to increase it to 5% of GDP, the expenditures on military is part of our NATO alliance obligations. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's beyond Stephen Harper. And I know you talked a lot about how the world is changing and so on, but you've got to remember, as Dwight Eisenhower said, famously, a general as well as president, that every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired represents, in the final sense, a theft from those who are hungry and are not fed, for those who are cold and are not clothed. And so, I mean, I think that with that whole business, you know, even you know, notwithstanding, I respect what the people around us do for a living, but increasing this,
I understand your question.
Military direction. I just want you to.
Sorry, sir, can you state your name?
No,
and
I
outlet?
understand your
I'm
question.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
CKUW,
We're a democracy.
Michael
That's
Welch, CKUW. I mean, I should also point out that the filmmaker Abby Martin put out a new film called Earth's Greatest Enemy, which talks about how this
I get the essence of your question. Let me try to answer it in fairness to the men and women who are sitting here, and I'm sure they have a lot going on their day, and they've been very patient and very respectful of everyone. Listen, I think we can do two things at the same time. I think it's about time that we invest in our armed forces to meet the challenges of today. You mentioned it. The world when you were born and the world we live in today is quite different. We have seen a more complex world. We have seen conflicts in different parts of the world. And I think Canadians understand that we need to defend our sovereignty, that we need to equip the men and women with the equipment they need to face new threats. And I think it's a generational investment that's going to serve us for decades to come. You may know that, you know, after the Second World War, we have the second largest Navy, and I think we had the fourth largest Air Force, or thereabout. Might be the reverse. But Canada always had a very sustained investment in our armed forces. Obviously, after the Second World War, you've seen us and other countries invest less. But the nature of threat today requires us to do that. And at the same time, not only we're going to rebuild our armed forces, but we're going to rebuild our country. We're going to invest in industries. We're going to invest in workers. This is the whole of Canada coming together. And you can do that and at the same time be compassionate. Be compassionate to say, yes, we invest in the military, but I would agree with you. If you go on the street, you and I walk this afternoon, people would talk to me about affordability, the cost of rent, the cost of gas, the cost of grocery. We have used $7 billion of additional revenue we got. Well, of the $7 billion we got, two-thirds of that we sent back to Canadians because we understand this is a time where a lot of families find it more difficult. So you can invest in what's strategic to build, you know, more resiliency in our armed forces, at the same time to be compassionate and to help Canadians. I think the men and women who serve here understand that very well.
I'd also like to ask about the, I mean, since I don't get to talk to you very often, I mean, back in 2023, as you know, you and your colleagues kind of embarrassed the country when you basically saluted a Nazi in the House of Commons. And I talked to Scott Ritter, who is a U.S. soldier and a UN security inspections officer. He was talking about how he was very carefully vetted before he went in. You know, not, and this is back in the 1990s. And he said basically that Anthony Rota was, you know, taking a bullet for the boss, so to speak. So the implication is that, you know, there's all sorts of things that seem to secure that the idea that, you know, we're going easy on the Nazis, and we're so determined to get at the Russians that we're actually aligning ourselves with the Nazis. And there's other things like the...
Okay,
Sure.
thank you, sir.
I think I get the gist of your question.
Yeah, just satisfy the...
I get the gist of your question. I'm not sure I follow completely, but that's okay. I'll be there offline if you want to talk to me, and I'll be happy to engage with you. I'm just mindful of the men and women who probably have to go back to work. But I would say I'm very proud of these people here. And I think every Canadian watching at home are proud. These people wake up in the morning every day to defend our nation, to serve our nation, to make sure that Canada, like I said, is understood to be a key player within the NATO alliance. And I think with the investment we've made today, you should be proud, sir, that these men and women, I think about the military police officer that I see there, the Navy lady behind me, the people in the Army that are also serving, all of them, sirs, step up every morning to defend our nation and protect our sovereignty. I think we should all remind ourselves of that. I appreciate your question, and I'm happy to take that with you after. But let's celebrate the men and women who are here today. And let's say a big thank you on behalf of everyone, because very few people wake up having to serve in uniform and be ready to answer the call of duty, and these people do it every morning.
And that will wrap up the media portion of this announcement.
I guess the commander is giving me the whole clear, so now, you know, I think it's time to go back. I think that's what I see when the smile. I see a smile there. That must mean that everyone is going back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much on behalf of every colleague here behind. Let's seize the moment. Let's build this country, and thank you for your service. Merci. Bonne journée.